This is a really simple way to extract really important information about what you want for your life. So start with your dream life. Imagine you could do it as a day in the life, you could do it as a bulleted list, whatever format makes sense for you. If you want to do images, like by all means. But try and capture as much as you can with as much detail as possible about what comes to mind when you think about living your dream life. And oftentimes people are going to start with the like, I go to these places, I own these things. That's like the surface level stuff and valuable insight, but get past the surface level and the real like gold is in the layers below. Because as you describe where you're waking up, what you see when you look out your window, what are the first things you do in the morning? Who do you see? What do you do? When you walk outside, what happens? When you think about a free day, what are you doing? How does your time pass? Not only who are you with, but what kinds of relationships do you have? What do you do with the people that you care about in your life? What are your activities? What do you spend your most kind of joyful time, fulfilling time doing? Like, what does that feel like? And get into the details of like what kind of relationship you have with your kids, partner, spouse, mother, father, siblings. Um, Detail like how you want to show up for them, what kind of person you want to be, how people perceive you and experience you. Not for the sake of your reputation or perception, but just like what kind of person do you want people to experience when they're around you? What do you want people to feel when they're with you? How do you close out your days? Like what feels like a good kind of easy, not easy in terms of simplicity, but like what's a way to ease into your evening, into like a good night's rest, right? What are the things you do beforehand? What colors do you see? What, settings are you in? What views do you have when you're driving home? What do you eat? What kind of food meals are you having? Do you cook? Do you go out all the time? Are you walking in your neighborhood? Are you driving? Are you immediately walking out the door and jumping in a car? When you think about the memories you want to make and thinking about when this life is all said and done and you look back on what was meaningful and fulfilling to you, like what are the memories you want to have? And sure, yeah, list the places you want to go, maybe the things you want to buy for yourself, the experiences you want to enjoy. Those things matter too. But the everyday stuff is where the real insight comes in. Like, what is pure play for you? What is fun? What do you do just because? And it's for no one else but your own joy, your own happiness. And it doesn't have to like amount to anything. It doesn't have to turn into a tangible thing that you can then go do something with. It doesn't have to be productive or efficient. It could be like literally climbing a tree, right? And you do it just because. It could be learning how to skateboard because you've always wanted to skateboard and you've never learned. Think about that kind of stuff. Think about what your relationship to money is. What do you spend money on? How do you feel about money? What does feeling financially secure entail? What does inner peace feel like? What is your relationship to yourself? Do you trust yourself? Do you love yourself? How do you take care of yourself? How do you make sure that you are steady and whole and feeling solid? What are the things that you can do for yourself that make you feel just so, life is the best, or that you feel cared for by yourself? Whether it's your spirituality, your physical health, your mental health, your relationship to like your existence? What does fulfillment, purpose mean to you? Like these are the dream life things. It's not just the list of the things that we might want to buy for ourselves and our family. It's what a beautiful life feels like and what you do in that beautiful life, how you spend your time, what are worthwhile investments of your resources. And your resources are money, time, energy, right? The things that are limited. So if you detail all of this, right, and get into come back to it. Don't just like do it in one sitting and then be done with it. Come back to it, revisit it over days, maybe even weeks. And once you feel like, you read it through a couple times, you edit it, and you're like, this actually feels pretty cohesive. Like you don't have to add more for the sake of adding more. And it doesn't have to be long for the sake of being long either. It just has to be accurate and true to you. And it should feel comprehensive and complete for as much as you know at this point in time. And then what you can do with that is literally break it down into individual ingredients. Like, for example, if you see yourself waking up and the first thing you do is like petting your dog because they sleep next to you and you currently don't have a dog, then it's like, get a dog, right? Is an ingredient. Or if you're like, if you wrote something like travel the world and you didn't detail where, then where you want to go, each place you want to go is an ingredient. If you want to have kids someday or already have kids and you are thinking about what kind of life you want to provide these kids and how, like, as a parent, how you see yourself supporting them and saving enough money so that they can get a certain level of education, then it's like save, I don't know, some estimated amount for college education, right? Like that's what I mean by ingredients. Even if you think about the home you live in, because if you think about owning a home, then own a home might be at the top, like might be one thing, but then the individual things you want to experience with your home are all individual ingredients. For example, I like dream of having this like sunny reading nook, right? That's like right by a window, but it has shades or curtains that I can pull if it gets too sunny. But it's like this cozy, pillow-filled, soft corner that isn't just like a skinny bench. It's like an area. It's like a large space that I can like lie down in, kind of spread out in, like not just kind of, sit along a window. But that is an ingredient, right? Because buying a house doesn't mean anything. It just means buy a house, right? It doesn't mean all the things that make your dream home your dream home. So one of my ingredients would be that window side reading nook. So do that for everything on there. And if, for example, like I want to get my paragliding license. Like I want to kind of be certified to be able to like go paragliding by myself, but I've never gone paragliding, right? So the first thing would like one ingredient would be like take paragliding lessons, right? So break it down. And that basically gives you a comprehensive list of what you want for this life. And then you have to organize it, right? You have to organize it down to, okay, like what makes sense to focus on today? What feels like a 5, 10, farther out thing? 5, 10 years, I mean. What are things that have other subsequent steps that maybe you didn't detail in your dream life, but as a listed thing that you want, you're going to have to build towards. Like buying a home doesn't happen tomorrow, right? Unless you just have like, liquid cash and a home you've identified. But there's steps, right? So there's savings steps. There's figuring out where you want to live steps, right? So there's work to do after that, but by doing this initial exercise, what you build yourself is your ingredient list. It's like your pantry. It's like all the stuff that ultimately you want to be a part of your meaningful, fulfilling life. And once you have those ingredients, you can figure out how you want to mix them together, and you can figure out which you're going to use today and which you're going to save for later. But at least you start to paint a detailed picture such that you can like access like the images as you go about your life. As you start to take action and move towards the life you want to build, you have these pictures you can reference in your brain, right? So that it becomes more real and tangible. And it's no different. It's a version of a visioning exercise. And the point of having vision is so that you can set direction. The point of vision is not so that you have a complete, some set in stone picture that you are then going to build towards for the rest of your life. And that 5, 10 years, you're like, oh, fuck, like this isn't what I want. Like the whole point of a vision is just for direction, such that as you move in the direction, you may adjust it, you may add to it, you may edit it and cut things out because you're like, oh, I experimented with that and that isn't quite what I want. What I want is actually this. Like visions are meant to be iterative. They're not meant to predict futures, and they're not meant to outline a step-by-step plan. They're meant to clarify and serve as filters for your decisions today so that you know where to invest your resources today such that they move you in the direction of the vision that you've set. But as you move towards that vision, in the same way that if you're navigating from point A to point B, you might come across roadblocks. You might come across things that make you think that you want to go here instead, right? So as you move towards that vision, you are going to adjust, and then the vision will shift with that. And you're supposed to revisit the vision pretty regularly. I do mine at least once a year because a lot happens in a year that might adjust things. But the more that you do it, the less it'll change, drastically at least. The less it'll shift from like, oh, I wanted this and suddenly I want something completely different. Those shifts happen way earlier in your life when you're still just trying to figure out who you are, what matters to you, right? And start to work through some of the, like, deprogram yourself from the things that you might have been taught in school, at home, in your communities, by your friends, that you're just like, wait, I don't know if I align to that anymore. So those shifts happen earlier on in life. And it isn't necessarily an age thing. When I say earlier on in life, I just mean if you haven't done the work, right? If you haven't started to iterate and test what you want to do in life. Because there are people who have followed a path from day one and never got off that path because that was a path that was prescribed to them or forced upon them, and they felt like they had to follow it, and they just kept following it until there's a day where something is painful, frustrating, confusing enough that they're like, I need to fucking get off this path. And then they start this work. Those gaps will be big too. But earlier on in life, in your journey to self-actualization, I guess is what I mean. Not necessarily earlier on in age. Because those first few moments where you're trying to figure out, when you're trying to reconcile who you are with what you want and where you currently are and how far you've got to go to get it, those are scary times because you're just like, holy fuck, this is so difficult. Like, how could I possibly get there? But as you move towards it, it won't seem that scary because you're starting to do the work and you're starting to realize the returns on that work. But a false vision will lead you down a false path. And that's why it's so important to make sure that you do the work up front of clarifying what your vision is accurately and beyond the surface. Because the layers below speak to the core of what you actually want. Right? So when you say I want $1 million, looking at $1 million does absolutely nothing for you. I mean, maybe an ego boost, right? Or maybe some joy for the moment. But you have to do something with that money to realize the value of it. So you still have to answer the question of like, okay, you want $1 million to do what? To live what life? To have what experiences? To help what people? I want to buy the house so that you feel what? What does that house give you? What will you feel in terms of fulfillment and satisfaction once you have this house? What do you need the house to include so that you can feel the full fulfillment of this house? You want to go to Tanzania? Cool. Why? What do you want to experience there? What do you want to see? What do you want to learn? What do you want to come back home with beyond just a bunch of photos in your phone? Like those details give you the source material or give you the answers to what you want. And what you do with those ingredients and what timeline, that's like the organizational work and the strategy work after that. But if you are just trying to figure out what you want, this is a great starting point. And it's a fun creative exercise. It gives you space to imagine, to dream up possibility, and to be very selfish, quite frankly, because we all need our selfish moments. You get to be selfish and solely think about no one else but what you want. But I will warn you that after you do this, the work begins, right? But if you're feeling stuck on what it is that you want and trying to get clearer on that, that's how you do it. Not the only way, but that's how I do it. And that's how I show other people. Because that's always a starting point for anybody that I work with. And they start there and they break all the shit down and we make sense of it, we organize it, synthesize it, and then turn it into usable insight. They turn into goals, priorities, missions, purpose. Those are the ingredients that inform all that other stuff. But you'll get a lot of value just from doing this. And I would love to hear what people come up with. And there's a call that you can join. We do it every week, and the link's below. So join us for that call if you think it would be helpful to talk through some of this stuff.